Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Stephen Jarvis and Friends podcast. I got another guest today. His name is Titus Walker, and he's part of the esports gaming community and is actually CEO of the Ultimate. God, I had it and then I didn't. So sorry, Titus.
Hey, it's all good. So Ultimate End Gamers League.
I uh I knew it had end something in there, and I was just like, So how are you doing today, Titus?
I'm good, yeah, and it's all good. We created the word and and so we've built a league and a sport around that word that we created. So it's understandable. Most people don't know it.
So how did you come up with the UEL and getting into the esports? Because it's a huge community. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
heck, they have many tournaments and all that. And granted, it started off small, but then it blew up pretty quick. So
Yeah. So I've been gaming my whole life. I mean, since I was really, really young, 5 or 6 years old. And my when I turned, once I got of age where I was going to start working, I got into real estate and did real estate investing. Bought, flipped a couple houses. Would go in and my company would develop land and then build communities from that land. And as I was doing that, I decided, after a conversation with my wife, we were looking into, okay, well, maybe it'd be a good idea or a good time to build out like an arcade in our community, just because a lot of kids didn't really have much to do. We had kids, and they didn't have much to do, so we were like, yeah, this probably would be a good fit. And so, in looking into that, we realized that a couple things. One, the average gamer has plays about 24 games per year, which is a lot of different games. And I was more of the average gamer, where I'm competing in tons of different games throughout the year. And so then I started looking for. We were building out our business plan, and we realized, oh well, we're not going to make any money at this arcade if we can't get a consistent flow of people coming in. And it's really difficult to get a consistent flow of people coming in, because most people, if they're going to be there, they're going to be there for like a social environment. They're going to be there for they want to be able to do stuff that they can't do when they're at home. And really, there's not much you can't do at home nowadays, just because you have everything from like Discord to whatever. And so that kind of started me snowballing into getting into like the more esports realm, trying to find something that would bring people back into my building, back into my arcade. And that's really what started that snowball.
was it hard to come up with, an esports? Because I'm sure you have a team.
Yeah.
And being the CEO of that team, was it really hard trying to find players that were fitting what you wanted for your team?
Yeah, for sure. So we're like the NFL, NBA. We're more of a league. So we have 12 different teams right now, and they're all owned by individual investors that run it like a business. And then they compete against each other throughout like a regular season, just like any other sport. Then they go into a playoffs, and then at the end of it, somebody wins. And this season, the cash prize is $100,000. So they have different. They're finding the players initially was nearly damn near impossible. I mean, we got 16 players in our first ever draft, season 1. We had 16 players, and we fought really hard to get all of them involved, because it's just tough. A lot of people are standoffish about joining something new and trying something new. And so But we've built it out. We have over 400 players in our league now. So
holy crap.
Yep.
I suppose the grind and all that, trying to keep it afloat, I bet that's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, that it was self-funded, fully self-funded for the first, really still kind of until now, but really, really, really for the past 3.5 years, like fully self-funded, and so we didn't have any. We had original investors. They ended up not working out and not wanting to push through once the pandemic came up, because we started right before the pandemic. Once that came up, it was like a lot of people were trying to get out of the industry, and I saw it
definitely.
I saw it as an opportunity to really push myself into the forefront of the industry, because I'm like, if everybody else is going to back out, that just leaves me room. And so that's what we did, and it's worked out. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, once the pandemic hit, I mean, entertainment in general took a major nosedive. I mean, there was people thinking movie theaters were going to die off, and
right.
It was just, it was shocking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we were a part of that. I mean, esports and really the arcade industry, we saw just in our little area, we saw 4 different arcades shut down completely. And they still aren't back open for business. And so, so now it was definitely a rough period for those in the arcade industry. But we transitioned immediately and kind of stopped doing the whole arcade thing, and now we just do the league. Like that's all the building is there for. We have 4 different locations. Our other locations host still regular tournaments and have people come in. They can pay hourly. But where we have our arena at, it's specifically esports.
Oof. How many championships have you, or do you guys go with championships?
Yes.
I know tournaments have cash prizes and all that.
Yeah. So it's the end game is what we call it. It's World Championship, and we're on season 7. We're doing $100,000 cash for season 7, and so we've been pushing. We have 7 different world champions in our league. And the league, once you win, you kind of go back to the drawing board and you start fresh again. The team stays together and they just keep building up. We come out with new games because our competition is very different. We compete in the art form of gaming. So you think of it like the UFC of esports, where you're competing in multiple different games. So.
Okay. And you said that, you're trying to build a bigger community and all that through arcades and all that. It's shocking how much arcades are now starting to slowly come back. I mean, granted, you have the 1UP arcade machine that, I think you can buy your own games on that and all that stuff. So it's like, it's so shocking how something that started back probably 70s, 80s with the arcade machines, they die off and now they're coming back. It's like, wow.
Yeah, everything's in cycles. And so if you catch a wave at the right time, you can be right in the beginning of that cycle and kind of ride it back up. And so that's what we're positioned to do.
So other than CEO, do you also take part in these, or are you supposed to have hands off being a CEO?
I can if I wanted to, but I don't. And it's not because I really enjoy gaming. I enjoy coming in. So what we do is we'll put together like staff games where the pros will play against the staff, and I'll normally hop on those games and compete. But it's just there's a lot to do, so it's very rare I get an opportunity to just kind of sit and play with everybody.
Yeah, I could understand that. That would be kind of, you're the CEO and also you're in the tournaments and all that. If you were to do that, I bet there's a lot that do stuff like that, and I could only imagine that grind.
Yeah, no, it's a lot to try and keep up with the gamers. Our gamers our end gamers are the best in the world. Best gamers in the world. We actually hold a we put out a challenge to anybody in the world that wants to come out and compete against us, and we'll pay them. You know, if they win, they'll get $10,000. And nobody has beaten us. We've played everybody from. We played a couple guys from like E United, the Hive, and they're all world champions in a lot of different games, and we absolutely destroy them just because we're the best in the world, and we'll just continue to prove that.
Yeah. When it first started, how many were on the team compared to now?
For you, as far as employees or programs?
Yeah.
So when it first started, it was just me, my wife, and Herbert. We call him, he's Pastor Herb is his gamer tag, and it was just us three on the roster. Then we picked up Wonku, so it became four. So that was kind of the core team in the beginning. Now we have, somewhere near like 40 or 50. Easily 40 or 50 different people in the organization, either helping with, PR, production, the stream tech, like all those different things, all those different roles. So it's a lot.
Oh, I bet. So for people that don't know about e-gaming and how serious it is, it's very serious competition.
Mm-hmm.
Not just anybody off the street could, do all that e-gaming stuff. They actually have to practice.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys have coaches and all that, or did you not go with that system?
No, we do have coaches. We have coaches, trainers, recruiters, because there's a draft every season, so new players get drafted in as rookies. Okay. So yeah, there's all of that, and coaching is a big part of the game. It's 60% of the game, really. So.
Oh yeah, I don't know which one, but one of the last big e-gaming conventions or esports, the coach ended up getting fired because I guess he had pushed them so hard that they lost within the first round.
Wow.
And it's just like, wow. And yet, you have more now, like the YouTube community, you have some of those gamers now are trying to get into esports, and is it very welcoming for content creators to get into esports, or is it kind of like, we understand you guys game for a living, but this is esports. It's different than just sitting there playing a game.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we kind of think the opposite. It is easy for in most esports, it is very difficult for content creators to get involved because, like you said, they're seen as just playing games.
Yeah.
We actually see it the opposite of that. So we see the content creators that do play a lot of games as more of a gamer or an end gamer than the people that sit and play, League of Legends or, StarCraft or whatever those games professionally, but they only play that one game. So, so we actually go after more of like the content creator, because we know that they're going to be capable of going from one game to another better. And that's what we're really all about. And so the better you are at multiple games, the better you will be in the league. And so that's something that we more push for a lot more content creators, because we see them as the true end gamers, if they play multiple games within their content.
Yeah. Now with the Madden side of everything, how does that usually go about?
So Madden, when Madden's on the wheel, because essentially when you're playing against each other, there's a wheel of games, like a roulette wheel.
Okay.
That wheel spins, and let's say it's my team versus your team.
Yeah.
There's 33 different games that range from fighting games, shooting games, sports games, racing games, and then strategy games. The wheel spins, it lands on a game within that genre, and then you compete in whatever that game is. So I'll send in my player, you send in your player, and you play against each other. If Madden's one of those games, We'll play each other in Madden. One of us will win. That's worth 1 point. Then it'll spin again, and we'll play something else. And it just keeps going. Normally,
Okay.
on average, about 20 to 24 different titles get played, or different game titles, throughout one single game.
And with the schedule, do you follow like the 18 game seasons that the NFL now has, or do you guys just make up your own and then get into the championship?
Yeah, you just make up your your own game. With your own teams, they compete against each other, and then everybody just plays their favorites normally.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to watch this and be like, first of all, what's the esports leagues and all that, and you're telling them, you're filling in the blanks that they're probably didn't even know about. I mean, heck, half the people in the world don't even know about esports yet.
Right, yeah.
And then when the pandemic hit, NASCAR started doing that, and it was just it's interesting, and it's always cool to see it evolve. The very first, I think, esports thing was probably Fortnite, maybe.
No, I mean the first esports thing I want to say was Sonic. When they did like a big event for Sonic, it was like a speed run. But there may have been one before that. But they were like small. The companies normally did them, and so they weren't very well known. And that was like 30 plus years ago. And then they didn't call it esports; they just called it gaming.
Yeah.
And then eventually it kind of came around, and people came up with a cool title. Esports is a good title.
Yeah.
But it's still in a essence is gaming.
Yeah.
It's just the sport part is what we're more focused on. We're more focused on the athleticism part of
Yeah.
it, the sport part of it, and the art form.
Yeah. So does it just go on computer, or is it all different systems that you guys use?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it's different systems. So that's a part of being an end gamer as well. You got to be able to play on, a PlayStation, an Xbox, and a PC.
Okay. Yeah, I still haven't mastered PCs.
Yeah, PC's tough for sure. Yeah, I still haven't either. So yeah, it's tough.
So do you guys ever have like an off season, or is it just continuously you plug new players in? The other players probably either retire or say, hey, I don't have the energy to keep doing it. How does that process usually go?
So at the end of every season, somebody wins a championship.
Yep.
Then the team owner decides who they want to draft in the new draft that comes
Okay.
up.
Okay.
They then draft some new players to fill in gaps that they maybe were missing the last season.
Yeah.
And then from there, after that, after the draft, they then end up competing normally with about the same team as before. So just adding in one or two players here or there.
Yeah.
There isn't a long off season. The off season's only about 3 weeks. So a lot of the players are playing throughout the whole year, with no real break.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have breaks in between games, but they're there for they enjoy playing games. They enjoy
Yeah.
you know they enjoy that time anyway. So it's not like most other sports where you're expending a lot of energy while you're sitting down doing it. A lot of them are having a lot of fun. They're really enjoying themselves while competing.
Oh, okay. Sorry if the answers or questions always seem like I'm asking a question, but then you're having to re-explain it before.
No, you're fine.
So for your team and all that, do they stay at their house and do this, or is there like a facility that you guys own that
Yeah,
houses
yeah.
them?
So we own a facility in Stafford, Virginia. That's one of our facilities. And so people travel from all over. We have people that travel from California, New York, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, all around to get to the location, and then they come in and compete. But we don't do it online at all at this point.
Oh, okay. On average, how much would a player make on average?
I would say let's say your team is winning, because after your split and everything like that,
Yeah.
if your team is winning, you're gonna make probably around $15,000 to $20,000 a year.
Wow. That ain't bad.
Yeah, and I mean for most of them, it's extra money.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
the goal would be to keep improving on
Yep.
that number, because we want to make it to where they're getting paid a lot more.
Well, not only that, but I'm sure it's not a like a regular job where you consistently keep making that, and you're not thinking, oh well, I know I'm gonna keep making this. Where with gaming, there probably isn't a union with
Right.
esports.
No.
So uh, when that happens, is there incentives for people to do better other than just the money, or is it just they love doing it so much that it some of them care more about the money and some care more about just hanging out with people and building that team
Camaraderie. Yeah,
thank
you're
you
good. So no, it's a little bit of there. I think there's three things within the league, within every league. You have the community, which is what you were talking about, that camaraderie. You have the financial compensation, and then you have the I call it the glory. Like, basically, like, I'm doing it for the shine that I'm gonna get if I win. And so I think it's a little of all three of those things. And some people are doing it for the glory. Some people are doing it for the community. Some people are doing it for the money. So there's a good mix, I think, within our league, and those are kind of the main things that we focus on, making sure that if we can improve those things, we'll be one of the best leagues. Well, I already consider us the best league in the world, but we just have to keep grinding to be able to prove that to everyone else.
Well, and plus you gotta have that. I mean, some people will call it cockiness or arrogance. You gotta have that, because if you don't feel that you're number one, then the rest of the team's gonna pick up on that. And it's just like regular sports in real life. If you get first class treatment, you better play first class, or
Exactly.
San Francisco 49ers in the 80s were really good for that one.
Right.
Do you so how long does an average player usually stay, would you end up saying?
We rarely have anyone leave. Is like, once you're in it, it's so much fun. People really enjoy the game. They enjoy the community, and we offer more money consistently than any other esports league. So it's rare that they leave. I think we've only had people of people that didn't get weeded out from skill. We've probably only had 4 or 5 people that have just left and decided they didn't want to play anymore. So most times it's like a skill thing. Either they don't make the team, they get cut, or slowly the team just kind of drafts differently.
And probably burnout possibly would be another big leading reason too, probably.
I don't think we're there yet, because they practice once a week. For the most part. I don't think we're there yet, but I think eventually that can become an issue for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you make gaming your job, or like me with podcasting, I suffer from burnout frequently, because it's like you're trying to, and and content creators know, you want to be on top of everything, because you don't want to lose that what you're doing is right, or once you lose that momentum, then it's hard to build back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you've got to keep pushing, even when it's really tough, and that's something that we've had to learn. I mean, I think everybody goes through it,
Oh,
especially in the early times.
definitely. I mean, you have people that take it way too serious, and you have people that say, well, I lost, come back next year and see if I can do it again.
Exactly.
Or you have the really, really out there ones that they lose, and then we hear about it on the news because
Hmm.
um yeah, it's weird that people sometimes take it way too serious. I've known few people in the podcasting community that do the same thing. I mean, people in general will take certain things too serious, and then it gets too it's not about the fun anymore. It's usually about, well, I need to win this, or I don't get paid, or and all that, or I might get cut.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you want to keep it for the love of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that should be the focus for as long as possible.
Yeah. Um, was esports, the leagues as a whole, when it first started, was it ever thought of being as big as it is today, or was pretty much just like, well, let's see what happens?
Yeah. I mean, with I think with traditional esports, they all kind of feel like they can just keep building up the community for the game. So I think it was like initially meant to be kind of an advertising ploy,
Okay.
like to get people in.
Yeah.
They see a prize pool, they see competition, they see the community, and you're going to get them in, and then they're going to get them playing your game, and hopefully coming back to come play that game. But for what we're trying to accomplish, um, it really we really want to be we really are a sport.
Yeah.
Something like the NFL, the NBA, NHL, UFC. We're a sport where you're really having to be athletic or
Mhm.
show athleticism in order to compete successfully within our league.
Yeah. I mean, was esports ever, you know, uh, because back in the day we had Nintendo championships, and then you had the Sega championships. Is that where esports kind of really evolved from? Because I mean, when you did those ones back in the day, it was kind of just regional, and then if you you won your regional, then you went to higher level until you got finally to the 1 and 2 for the championship. And I mean, back then that was serious, where now it's like you said, there's some people that will overdo it and they'll
Yeah.
burn themselves out, or, they're really good and then they get the, rewards that, they seek.
Yeah, I think it's like with anything, it's kind of a slow evolution of like you start out whenever there's like something that a lot of people love, it
Hmm.
starts out as just like, oh, we're just having fun. Think of like the NBA, right? That's
Yep.
only been around for 80 years or something like that, a little under 80
Yeah.
years. But basketball's been around for a lot longer. And so basketball grew in popularity and grew in popularity, and people started picking it up and just enjoying the game,
Yeah.
until eventually somebody put the game all together, made the rules right, and then it was like the BAA and the NBL combined and created the
Yeah.
NBA. And then now you had this league that now, if you say basketball, everybody knows that or is going to think about the NBA, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens. You say basketball, NBA. If you say football, NFL. But
Yeah.
those sports existed before the actual leagues, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think college was the very first one
Right.
to succeed, and then in the 1920s, I do believe, is when the NFL first came around,
Yes.
and other leagues started coming, but then started losing money. And I mean, the NFL didn't really have much of a rival until the late the 60s with the AFL. So I mean, yeah, like you said, it just keeps evolving.
exactly. And I think gaming's the same. Like if you say gaming right now, you don't really think of anything except video games, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's going to think of different things, right? And so we're going to get to the point where eventually you say gaming, you're going to think UEL.
Yeah.
And so that I think that's just the evolution of any sport or any competitive thing. You it just builds and builds until somebody organizes it, and then once it's organized, then that starts to build as well and help build the popularity of the sport, as well as provide an opportunity to a lot of the people around the world.
Now, is there a lot of egos when when you get your team and they start doing really good? Is there a lot of egos where you have to kind of keep them in check, or is it that's what the coach is for? The coaches kind of got to wade through all them personalities.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the coaches more have to deal with that. I don't normally have to see that, or even if I see it, it's not my problem really.
Yeah.
But I'll say that the normally end gamers talk a lot of trash, but they are very humble in that they know that there's more to be learned. It's a constant
Oh,
growth thing. So yeah, I'd say it's a little bit of both. They have to have that confidence, like you said before, but at the same time, you just don't want to take it too far.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure, you've probably heard from the coaches where, some of the players, and I'm sure like if a player misbehaves on your team, you discipline them, maybe even possibly suspend them.
Yeah, if and that's again, it's up to the coaches and the
Yeah.
owners of the team. But yeah.
Yeah. Um, did you ever think that, your team was going to grow as big as it did? Or again, was it like once those original investors left, was it kind of like, maybe it ain't going to work? Or was it just, we know it's going to work, them investors can go pound salt?
Uh, there were moments. I was I look back and I don't really know how I continued or how I pushed so hard because it was such hard work. And I had a lot of people telling me that it wouldn't work throughout the entire time of building it up. And so yeah, I'd say like there were a lot of moments where I felt like maybe I am doing this wrong. Maybe this isn't the right way of doing it. Maybe I should do things like normal esports does. Um, there was a lot of moments like that, but I'll say like the one thing that I'm very stubborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like losing, and I don't quit. And so when those moments came around, I just kind of had this, thing in my ear saying, "No, we're not ready to give up yet. Like not until we're gonna ride it until the wheels fall off."
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I mean, it wasn't easy by any means, but it's well worth it. And now,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course, looking back, it's that's kind of history now, but it's still, every now and then you get those thoughts of like, man, would we grow faster if we did it a certain way or whatever? And so,
Trust me. Uh, Podcasting definitely the same way.
yeah,
It sucks. And granted, with everything, it's a crapshoot at best for the start.
yeah,
Um, there's a few friends of mine that I used to know. They're no longer my friends because they thought that they were going to be able to piggyback off me and a couple of other friends that have podcasts. And it's like, you guys need to learn it. We can get your name out there, but at the same time, you got to put in that work. Well, they didn't want to put in that work. And then, you know, I mean, it's a crapshoot at best. And a few podcasts that I've been on where I'm the guest, which is few and far between. But they asked me, they're like, "Do you ever get tired of it?" And it's like, yeah, there's times where you want to you want to, like you said, you wanted to quit. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's something you still love, and you want to continue to do it because that love and that all that is still there. Granted, you can always take breaks. That's what vacations are for. But
Yeah.
my
And I think there's something about people like what you're doing and forcing your friends to kind of prove that they're really serious about it before just like, you can help people immediately
yeah,
if, even if you have it, you're a lot of times you're not actually helping them. It's
no,
giving them this false sense of like, oh, I can just hop on. I'm going to ask this
yeah,
person and that person. It's like, no, you really have to prove that you're in it and that you're serious, or other people just won't take you seriously. And I had to learn that starting out because when we were early in it, we had no experience in esports. We had no like, so when we were going to people, we were the people that are like, you
on the
know,
outside looking in.
yeah, trying to, break into it. Now I'm in meetings all day with people trying to get in with us,
Yeah,
and so, and I have to keep that lens of like, yeah, I know what that was like. I know what it was
yeah,
like trying to get into this world. And it's not easy, but now when people talk esports, they come to me,
yeah,
because this is, I'm what I'm building is we have the biggest esports league in the world, as
yeah.
far as like a multi-game league, the biggest in the world. So when you think of esports and you think of gaming, we talk directly with developers. We've had meetings with Activision Blizzard and
Yeah.
meetings with like major brands that I won't even say, but they're major.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
just that type of stuff takes time, and they're not going to take us seriously until we prove that we are serious about it. And it's the same with any industry.
Well, definitely. I mean, a couple months ago, I was on a network and didn't even know there was such thing as podcast networks, but yet I was on it. And one day they just said, I wasn't getting paid, so it wasn't like they owed me anything, but they're just like, we don't feel that your quality for your podcast is to our standards. We're going to have to let you go. And I never held any ill will towards that. And like I told some of my viewers, I said, that's just the business.
Yeah.
It could have been a bad thing, but I think it was a blessing in disguise because they kept making new and new rules. And it was just like after a while, I was telling my wife, and she could tell I was burnt out. And I just told her, I was like, maybe I need to quit. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, don't do that, Steven. You love doing your podcast. You know, everything will, turn out all right. You just got to stick with it. And thank God for her, and thank God for some of my friends and my family that just pushed me to go, hey, Steven, you've been doing this for 4 years. You know, people have always asked you, why are you doing it? You're not getting paid. And like I always say, it's because I love it, just like you guys with your league, you love it. You never want to give up on something you love.
Exactly.
But then
Exactly.
also at the same time, you don't want it to get to be a burden.
Yeah. And I think that all comes with balance. And I
Yep.
mean, so yeah, it's a tough balance, but I think that the people that are capable and can do it well will be paid off in the end. You know what I mean? You may not make the money right now, but over time you start getting that money coming in. Over time you start building up that audience. And I always think like if you're not willing to do something for 5 years, knowing that you're not going to make any money, you're not going to get any thank you for it. You're not going
Oh,
to
of
get any
course.
like none of that. If you can't do that you shouldn't start.
And
But
of
if you
course,
know,
your
yeah,
in-laws, when you're married, they think you're
yeah,
nuts.
yeah,
And like,
exactly. If you
I,
are willing to withstand that for 5 years, then just don't do it.
I just, yeah. And I even tell that to other guests that are saying, hey, I'm not in the industry yet. Do you think the industry is going to keep growing? And podcasting hasn't reached its peak yet. I
No.
mean, now we got video, uh, people doing videos where used to be just regular audio. And I just keep telling them, you got to keep doing it. You got to, when something new comes out, which I've said probably next thing would be VR podcasting.
Yeah.
I said, you got to jump on that right away or else it's going to pass you by. I mean, I remember before YouTube gaming became big, and me and my buddies were like, hey, maybe we should have, jumped on that train when it first started. And it's like, yeah, but a lot of us were still in high school and we weren't thinking that it was going to last.
Yeah.
So it definitely, stuff definitely evolves. And if you don't evolve with it, and granted with content creating, there's people that automatically think, oh, hey, I'm going to do my first episode and it's going to skyrocket. I'm going to be famous. That doesn't happen all the time.
Rarely ever happens. And
they always point to Joe Rogan. It's like, well, Joe Rogan had a following even before he started doing his own podcast. Yep. And some people don't believe that. It's like, wow. But definitely,
yeah, he had a TV show. He was
Fear Factor, and then
UFC. He was doing all that. So,
I mean, even UFC it almost ceased to exist in the 90s until Dana White bought it, built it, and then he sold it to some big investment group that now owns the WWE here pretty soon. So it's everything with business. I say there's two sides. There's personal and then there's business. And when I got let go from the network, I was like, is it personal or is it just business? And I even, my buddies that were with me in that were like, hey, we're going live. And we're going to talk about what just happened. And in my mind, it's just like, I could really say some shit. But then it's just like, my wife's like, Steven, you're better than that. So it's just like, I was happy to be a part of it. It was very nice to be wanted. But, shit changes and people would look, certain people would look at that and be like, oh, now a network doesn't want me. I'm screwed now. And it's like, no, you got to just keep doing what you're doing. I had a small following before I went on the network. It got a little bit bigger when I was on the network, but ultimately it's never going to change.
Yeah.
Unless you want it to change. And just like with your team, I'm sure if you guys just accepted, being okay and not being elite like you guys are, then it would just be, you'd probably say, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, that really is what it comes down to. Everybody's got to push to be great. And it's never going to be easy. You're going to have ups and downs. So it's good that you're able to get through them because it's life. You know what I mean? No matter who you are, you're dealing with that. No matter how big you get, you're dealing with that.
And fame isn't everything.
No, absolutely not.
I remember when I finally got to 1,000 podcast episode listens or whatever, download or listens on the podcast. And it's just like, yeah, maybe now I'll finally get monetized and all that. And Buzzsprout's like, whoa, pump the brakes, buddy. You have to get 1,000 downloads within the first 30 days of that episode. And it's just like, oh. But climbing that summit, and I'm definitely a perfectionist, and I'm one of those people that I told on one podcast I was on, I was like, I'm the underdog. I don't have a lot of money to put into my podcast. And in a way, it's kind of like that grunge era type stuff.
Yeah.
And people are like, really? There's grunge podcasts? I'm like, oh, hell yeah. I mean, we're a dime a dozen, but, at the same time, there's people that don't make it that really love what they're doing. And then you'll find out that they later went on to manage a successful podcast, that they stepped away from being the voice of it. I mean, hell, my wife is pretty much the owner of my podcast, because I said, the business side of stuff, where soon I'm going to be going to college to learn that, because I feel like if you don't have somewhat of that knowledge of business, it just passes you by. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, there's merchandising, there's 10 million different things. And luckily, I haven't had to pay any guests to come on. Luckily, most of them are really nice, which man, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I appreciate you for having me. And that is a part of it. Like, understanding the business side of things is vital. So,
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you're on point.
I mean, heck, even after 4 years, I'm still catching up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it works. It's a constant grind.
So, is there any real mental health issues within leagues, or is it kind of going under the radar in a way?
No, there is quite a bit. It definitely does not go under the radar. So it's something that our community is so good about it, because a lot of them struggle with a lot of that, and so they're good about really supporting each other. In our Discord, it's a constant, like, they're trying to find ways to communicate with each other and play with each other and help each other through hard times. So it really, our community is the best of the best when it comes to an esports league. When you join a family of end gamers. So if you become a pro end gamer, then you're in, and anybody that supports the community gets treated the same too. So no, there's a lot of it, and luckily, I think our community is built to really help with that.
Okay. If someone is looking, let's say someone wanted to watch any of the sports leagues that either your team does or other teams, is there a way for people to do that, like on Twitch or YouTube, or do you guys have your own type thing?
You can watch it on Twitch, YouTube. You can find us on all platforms. Twitch, YouTube. It's on Instagram, Twitter, and it's at UEL Esports. UEL Esports. And so you can find all of our content. We're on Instagram as well. So you can kind of check it out. We're live on Twitch every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Normally have about 3,500 viewers. So it's definitely something to watch, and it's really fun to watch and really engaging as well.
Is there any like records that people have and then they try and break each year, or is it just, they go in, they do the competition, if they win, they win, if they lose, they lose? Or do they actually have, like, I know in Madden, which is ridiculous that they never up the stats of all the records that have happened in the real NFL for the game. Is there anything like that with the league, or?
Yeah, there is. So there's like records for the most games won by any particular team, the biggest gap in a game. So like one team scores 20, the other team scores 0 or something like that. We keep stats of all the players as well, so they know what games they've won and what games they've lost throughout the season. So yeah, there's definitely records, and people. We also have we have individual genre belts. So like if you win, it's like a WWE style belt, where it's like if you win sports games, has a belt. Shooting games has its own belt, and so they can compete amongst each other as well to see who the best sports game player is, or shooting game player is, or racing game player. So that's all a part of it as well.
Okay. Good God. It's so hard to come up with new questions, and you've been a really great guest. It's like I ask a question and you talk at length about it, and I always say them are the best guests. Because then you can sit there and think about the next question, and And sometimes, when I ask the question, I know that sometimes I've probably asked it a different way, but the same answer in a way. So, I mean, it's nerve wracking sometimes with guests because there's guests that are easy to work with, and then there's the ones that give you the one word answer, and then it's just like, okay, well, now I have to think of something else.
Yeah.
Had that many times.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
I can imagine that would be pretty tough because then you have to be the one that's talking all the time.
Oh, and if you don't have a co-host, I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved used to having a co-host, but he wanted to go and do his own podcast, and his is a little bit more successful than mine. He recently started a couple of months ago, and there was people that asked me, well, how do you feel about that? And it's like, I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he found that niche audience that most people don't ever find.
Right.
And when you don't find that, you're pretty much just spinning your wheels until you give up.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is though, you connect with somebody and then that somebody connects with another somebody.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of how that works. Eventually that snowball happens and you get those that find that niche really quickly, but it doesn't, it's not like, finding it quickly is the goal. The goal is just to continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to push yourself to be better.
Yeah. And, he always asks me, he's like, what's the best advice you can give me? And I said, well, just make it your own and don't give up when it gets tough. I said, been doing this for 4 years, and there was real times where I wasn't getting any views.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you sit there and you watch it, and it's like, come on, people, just view once.
Mm-hmm.
Give me one. And no, and then of course when I got the guest list and your name was on the guest list and all that, it was just like, wow, people actually want to be on my podcast. And my wife's like, why are you thinking it's a negative thing? I'm like, no, I'm very proud of that fact because it goes to show that a lot of these people rather be representation of, the guests that eventually come on here or just the guests themselves. They see that, I'm trying.
Yeah. And I mean, you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely
the big thing.
Hey, esports leagues, if you're listening, I can be a commentator.
There you go. There you go. Hey, we may need some commentators coming up soon here. We're getting ready to relaunch, and it's going to be pretty big. So within the next couple of weeks. But yeah, you can follow us on all social medias, UEL Esports, and keep in contact. And we definitely could use some commentators.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't know how good I'd be, but hey, even
if you can talk, you can commentate. Yeah, that's
exactly. I mean, even Dandy Don Meredith back on Monday Night Football, he was quite a character, but I mean, heck, you had to be when you're dealing with either Howard Cosell or Frank Gifford, And with that, is there a lot of differing personalities? I know I asked about the egos before, but with personalities, some people may think of that as egos, and other people will be like, well, no, that's just who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the personalities range so much because you have a lot of people that play like more like, League of Legends or like Yu-Gi-Oh or like that type of stuff. But then you also have the Madden and the 2K players and, and then you have the Tekken and Street Fighter and Super Smash Brothers. So all of those players coming into one place. So it's very, very different personalities, but they all kind of learn from each other and you start to see more of, the league has its own personality because they've all been around each other so much and taught each other so much that they understand different lingo now. They've really kind of opened their world up to new games and new opportunities. And so yeah, but they still have wide ranges of personalities. It's fun to watch because it is something where you don't see this in any other esports league just because it doesn't exist. It's normally all the same game, all the same players in those games, and they all have very similar personalities because the game develops that personality.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I would feel bad if anyone wanted me on their team. I I rage pretty hardcore, even against the computer in Madden sometimes, or basketball or whatever I'm playing. And my wife's like, "You're gonna have a heart attack," and I said, "Probably,"
Yeah.
but uh, what what got you started your love for gaming?
When I was a kid, I was probably 5 or 6 years old. My dad got the first I remember is my dad got a Sega Genesis, and then he got Mortal Kombat,
Oh God.
and I
I,
was hooked on that game,
yep.
and me and my dad would just play it. We just play against each other all the time, and it was a game that I could really beat him in. I couldn't
Yeah.
beat him in anything else, but I could beat him in Mortal Kombat just because I really understood it. And even now, like, I'm one of the best Mortal Kombat players people will ever come across, and it's crazy because I don't really play it, but I just understand the game. And so yeah, I mean, that was the origin of it for me. I mean, my dad's love for gaming kind of just transferred over to me, and I just was hooked from that point.
Yeah. Once you said Sega Genesis, I remember being a kid. I was born in '93, so I remember growing up in the mid to late '90s playing Mortal Kombat 3.
Yeah,
And oh my God, people don't realize how hard those games were because there was no easy button.
no,
You had to be good to beat Shao Kahn or what's the horses, Mentaro and all them.
yeah,
You
and
had to be
and
so good.
and it wasn't like there was a whole lot of handbooks either, like
Yeah.
to teach you. There wasn't really any training modes or anything like that. It was
Yep.
just like you were either playing the game or
Yep.
you weren't. And so
Yep.
I never understood how people would learn the different move sets and all. It's just like you would just try stuff, right? And
Yep.
then, but how do you do that for fatalities? That part
I still to this day, and they've supposedly made it easier for people to do fatalities,
yeah,
still can't do a single one.
yeah. I mean, I can do them now, but back in the day, man, there was no way I was figuring out. And then people were like, oh yeah, it's up, left, down, right.
Yeah.
Nah, that's not happening.
Um, did you ever get into GoldenEye when that game first came out?
Absolutely,
Oh,
yeah,
I love that game.
absolutely. On the Nintendo 64,
Yeah.
yeah, that was our game. I mean, we thought about adding it to our wheel one season,
Yeah.
but the game is just so bad. Even if you play like they have like you can play it
The Switch
on
is
Steam. Yeah, you can play it
yeah.
on Steam too, though. I
Yeah.
believe you can play it on Steam. And we downloaded it on something and then played it, and it was like nostalgic, and we were like, oh, maybe we should think about adding it. And it was like, nah, it's pretty bad as far as
Yeah.
like the gameplay goes, but it's still very nostalgic.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was very fun having you on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for I'll send you a copy of
Perfect.
so then you have it and you can be like, "Hey, I was interviewed and this guy did a kind of okay job."
Hey, no, I'll definitely share it. So,
Thank you.
um, I appreciate you having me on. Again, you guys can follow me at UEL Esports on all social media. So look us up and make sure to tune into. Is it Stephen
Jarvis.
Jervis?
Yeah.
Stephen Jervis podcast and friends. So, all right, yeah, cool. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you so very much.
All right,
I'll talk to you later.
see ya.
Yep. And that was Titus Walker from the Ultimate Endgamer League or Endgame League. Very fun, very informative of what goes on with inside his team and also in the league that he is in. If you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll never miss another guest appearance or even pre-recorded stuff that I do from Buzzsprout. Also, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, Facebook group, Twitter, You can find me pretty much anywhere. But thank you so very much. I want to thank my loyal subscribers. I want to thank my team. I want to thank my fans. Thank you so very much for being who you are. Keep giving me that support, and I will keep punching out and bringing new guests on the show. And if you want to look for the league, all you have to do is go on Twitch or any other social media at UEL at esports, I think is what you said. But yeah, go check that out. Go check out the Talkin' Shit show with Mark Benset and his buddy Brian. Great group of people over there. Also, go check out Flet's Movies and Pop Culture Review 13. Kyle is a great person. Go check out the Broken System podcast with Robert Palmer. Great guy there. Go check out a lot of podcasts because a lot of us need that following. We need that support to keep going. Most of us are doing this for free. Some of us aren't. Some of us hit their stride right away. People like me that's been doing it for 4 years hasn't yet, but we're building. We're success. We're building. And if you subscribe, tell me you subscribed, because I want to do a thing where if you support the channel, which I think is like $3 a month on Buzzsprout, I think, just show me that you did. Send me a picture through my email, which is stevenjarvis10@gmail.com, and I'll give you a shout out. You know, I want my community to know that I love them, and hopefully I'm doing good stuff for them. All right. So this is Steven Jarvis signing off. I'll see you on Saturday when I have an actor on here by the name of Benjamin. God, what is his last name? Hold on one second. Benjamin Newmark. He has a movie on Tubi right now, and we'll hear more about that on Saturday. So I will see you then. Thank you, and ta-ta for now.